Thursday afternoon chat. Your favorite artists with Jayar.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, will you please welcome the legend, Matthew West.
Oh, man.
There's a story there.
That's funny. There's a story.
Yeah.
It's the story of us.
It is.
I've missed you.
I've missed you as
Can
well.
we do that?
Fist bump? Yeah.
But do I need to sanitize?
No, we live in the South.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, where was it? Let's start talking politics, Matthew.
Yes, let's do it.
So we've got so much to talk to in such a little time.
Yeah.
Is there a new album or just a new song we're playing today?
Well, I'd like to play. I have so many songs I want to play today for you. I don't even have a guitar, though.
Right.
But no,
I'll push play.
I'm always putting out music. I feel like I don't ever stop. You know, for Thanksgiving, it's Gobble Gobble, you know, and then
Classic.
a Christmas album. And then, you know, this spring, a brand new song I have out.
Yeah.
Called Me On Your Mind. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
And we're not going to talk about the song you wrote for your daughters because that caused a fuss.
Yeah, they tried to cancel me for that one.
I know. I felt so bad for you. I texted you like, oh my gosh.
Yes.
There's Christian radio personalities that defriended me over your song.
Why?
Because I defended you and they
were mad?
And they were mad and they got off Facebook forever. Because I didn't even view their comment because, you know, when you say something you feel, but you don't want to hear their reply, I unfollowed the thing. And two radio personalities, Christian radio personalities, got off Facebook. So they must have said something bad about me when I replied to them.
And then they left.
And then they were like, they did a big dramatic post saying, hey, there's too much stress in the world of getting off Facebook. I'm like, you got off because you said something really mean about me that I didn't see.
You fired your shots across the bow, and then you left.
But the joke's on them because I unfollowed the thread so that I couldn't get hurt by their comments.
Look at you.
And then they bailed.
Self-preservation.
But it was all defending you because they were being ridiculous, and you wrote a great song about...
It was just a song about a dad who loves his kids and wants them to know that, you know, they don't have to flaunt their bodies on TikTok in order to find love and acceptance. Who knew that would be controversial? You know, at Christmas time, every year I rewrite "'Twas the Night Before Christmas," and by every year I mean I started last year. Yeah. And I do it just like a funny thing, you know. And so like for this past year, I said, "'Twas the night before Christmas, the year 2021, and much like 2020, not so good, not so fun." But then there's little lines like that. And so one of the lines was the woke mob got angry when I used the word modest, but in this dad's humble opinion, I still think it's hottest. And just as a little, just end of the year, just a little. But, you know, I mean, hey, I've heard, you want to know what's interesting? I had a lot of people, and thank you for, you know, coming to my support. Yeah. But I had a lot of comedians reach out to me when that backlash hit, saying that they just felt, they really felt for me because as a comedians, they have realized it is a horrible time to be a comedian in our world because everybody's looking to cancel you. Nobody has a sense of humor. Right. And so I thought that was interesting. Like, you know.
Was it Nate Bargatze?
Nate,
Brian
he didn't
Bates?
reach out to me, but John, Chris, and several others that I didn't even really know just said, hey, we're here for you. And I was like, am I a comedian now?
Am I a comedian? Because I defended you too.
Am I part of your group? And they said, no, you're not part of our group. We're not welcoming you in. But
you're not one of us.
But last year was a year of, you know, like for all of us, ups and downs. And guess what? We're still going.
It is in Proverbs. It says that laughter is medicine. So
it does good like a medicine.
It is the antidote to this world. And if you're not using it, you're not taking medicine. So in my line of work and comedians' line of work, if that's the gift I get to give to the world is God has given me the ability to every once in a while make people laugh.
Yes.
And it helps people get through this jacked up world.
Yes. And, you know, I felt like these last couple of years, we got to laugh because if we didn't, we'd cry our eyes out. Yeah. You know, and so for the last couple of years, I've kind of leaned into, yes, I'm going to write songs like Truth Be Told, but I'm also going to, you know, I wrote some of these funny songs to make my daughters laugh during a hard time. And when they started laughing, I thought, well, maybe some other families, you know, and so that's why, like, every year at Thanksgiving now, all these families are sending me videos of their kids jumping around the house singing Gobble Gobble, and I'm like, that's awesome. Yeah. You know what I mean? Some would say, well, that's not ministry, and I'm like, you know what? I see the Lord use that to give families a bright spot to rally around during a dark season in our world. So
Gobble Gobble is great. Your Hanukkah song was great. Yeah.
I don't have a Hanukkah
Oh,
song.
that was Adam Sandler. I'm sorry.
This was Chris Tomlin. No.
Oh, we forgot to change the green screen.
Right.
Oh, your last name was West.
So?
Not was West, is West. And one of the things on the list was the old West like tombstone setting. So let's go to it. All right. What do you think?
It's awesome. Hey, y'all. It feels like we're there.
Yeah.
Well, we are there.
Your family's from Chicago. Are there any Wests that ever made it west that you know of in your family tree, like out to the gold
To the West
rush?
Coast?
Like
to the...
Yeah, like anybody that pioneered out west, or are you guys all Chicago?
Well, Kanye was a
Your
gold
brother.
digger.
Kanye was a gold digger. This is 1949.
Yeah, exactly. He's my brother from another mother, but it's funny. Actually, this past year, at the end of the year, Billboard always does their end of year charts.
Yeah.
And my daughter posted it on Instagram. She found, it said the end of the year Billboard songwriter. This is going to sound like I'm bragging on myself. I'm not. The point is, it was top songwriters, and it was me, Matthew West, and number 2, Kanye West, because he did a Christian album. And I'm like, this is the one time in my life that I actually beat Kanye West. But no, he's not my real brother. But
I was going to say your mother is like, my 2 sons are at the top of the list.
I don't think I had any family members that went out west as part of, because
we're Seattle, so mine didn't chase gold. Mine chased like the timber rush out in the Pacific Northwest.
There was a timber rush?
Yeah, because after gold dried up, they were like, oh, wood is worth money too. And so people went up to the Northwest. It's kind of like a second gold rush, but for timber. Less lucrative.
I was going to say.
It wasn't as lucrative, but they're still out there.
Well, yeah, I've never done the 23andMe. Like, have you done that?
No, because I believe in scam. I don't like getting scammed, and I'm still nervous.
Why would you?
Tasha Layton said that she did it, and she had a good experience. Found cousins. She was the only good experience I've heard somebody say.
But other people get scammed by it?
I just feel like they can trick you. Hey, this is your cousin, and they'll show you a picture of an old person, and I'm like, how do you know that's my great aunt? Well, we traced it back. Okay. I'm just, what's the word?
You're a cynic?
Skeptical that they're trying to make money. But Tasha was all into it.
She was into it.
She found their
I haven't heard of scamming stories, but that makes me...
Yeah. I want to give the audience a behind the scenes we've already talked about the fact that you were was it Songwriter of the Year on Billboard? What was the title?
I don't know. It was like they do like rankings basically, and you know that's how I measure my self-worth.
Yeah, right.
You know, just kidding. No, but yeah, the end of the year, at the end of the year they kind of say here was the top artist, here was the top songwriter, here was the top song. You know, all those things.
You don't need to. I already brag on you all throughout the year. Anytime I come
you.
out of a Matthew West song, because I'm like, that is the greatest songwriter on the planet.
Come on, man.
So I've tried,
not Kanye,
because I'm trying to teach people that there's great singers, there's great frontmen and women, but songwriting is hard. Like I've tried to write with a few groups. I don't have a musical bone, but I have the ears, so I've tried to get with a couple groups and just kind of write radio hits, and it's never worked out because we get to this certain point, and there's just something about it's a gift to be able to write a melody that the world's going to sing, that not everybody has that. And you have it. You and I have talked about the fact that, like, can you ever go to Disney World and just sit on It's a Small World without shutting off that songwriter brain? You're like, no, you can't. It's always functioning.
Always.
It's what makes you great, but can make you crazy if you can't.
Yeah.
But I just want to give our audience, they know the Matthew West songs, but this past year, you've had this string of number ones that people wouldn't even know that you wrote. And I'll set you up by saying this. In my opinion, Leanna Crawford's Truth I'm Standing On is one of the greatest songs in the history of Christian music.
Wow.
And it went right up against the pandemic.
Yes, it did.
And the world did, like, it made the top 20. But in my opinion, it had I Can Only Imagine status. And it didn't go there, but it had the whole formula. Great vocal. It hit right as the pandemic's hitting. It's a song about the truth of God's word that I'm going to stand on. And like, this is one of the greatest faith songs in history, and did not get the love. And then I found out you were you wrote it.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I mean, you know, sometimes that's the hard part about what we do too is, and thank you for those kind words. When it comes to the songwriting though, I've never felt like I have a gift. I've always felt like It's like the parable of the talents, where one guy, invests the talents and it grows, and another guy buries it in the ground. And I've always felt like whatever little talent I've had, in fact, for my whole life, I've always had this mindset that I'm half as talented as everybody around me, but I'm going to work twice as hard. And so I really believe in the theory of like 10,000 hours. And so I just keep working and keep writing and hopefully get better and better. But that's a hard part of like any songwriting or music endeavor, is that some songs like you believe in, like I believed in that song and believed it could go, to the top of the charts and all those things. And sometimes it just doesn't. And people don't realize like the amount of like obstacles. It's literally like one of those television shows with the obstacle course that a song has to make it through all of these different channels to see the light of day at radio, just to be heard by audiences so that the audience can decide if it moves them. So
and one thing can hurt it, like an enormous amount of horns. Like everything was great, and it's like the people didn't like the horns.
Yeah, and we have to, and I'm thankful for, I have a great record label with the radio department that like thinks through all of those things. And the funny part is there's times where I believe in a song, and then there's times where like I'll call it. My last single on my last album was called What If, and they said, we think this is the next radio single. I was like, no way. That's not going to work. Yeah. And I wrote it, but I was like down on it myself because I thought, I don't know, I don't think people are going to like it.
Yeah.
And then they're like, well, do you trust this? I'm like, yeah, okay. Yeah. And after weeks of like going back and forth, we went with it. And now my big joke with them every time we talk is like, I'm so glad that you guys finally came around that What If was the song that needed to be played. But it's like I'll readily admit that I can write the songs, but I can't always predict what's going to move the hearts of people.
And this is not Matthew bragging. I just want to give people, it's kind of interesting to people that, oh my gosh, Matthew helped write that. Could you just tell everybody the songs in 2021 that you helped write? That they would know. Scars of Heaven.
Scars in Heaven with Casting Crowns. My Jesus with Ann Wilson.
Which was huge.
Yeah, man, she's awesome, man. And you mentioned Tasha Layton earlier. We wrote a song called Look What You've Done, which has done great for her. And she's a great singer.
Yeah.
And then there's a song called Weary Traveler by an artist named Jordan St. Cyr.
Oh, we love him. Had him on this year.
Yeah, he's awesome. And so different songs like that, It's been I'm forgetting something, but anyways. But yeah, I got to be honest, like I love being in the room, like writing songs with artists. And like over the pandemic, like we got songs that are on the radio now that were written on Zoom calls. Like Rhett Walker's All Joy No Stress was written over Zoom. And we were writing during an incredibly stressful time in our world. And we were writing this song about joy,
We've already established that you're the best, but who can you tell our audience that surprisingly that they would know, not some Jason Ingram they wouldn't know, but who's the best songwriter in your opinion that they would know?
Like artist
surprisingly,
songwriter?
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many good ones. Honestly, I would probably point to Mark Hall because from Casting Crowns, because he comes in with these brilliant lines and brilliant like concepts that are like, it's like solid food. You know what I mean? Like it's like, whoa, I got to chew on that for a second. I got to figure out. But then he'll say something like just in passing, he was like, I just think about like the only scars that are going to be in heaven are, going to be on Jesus' hands. And I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
He's like, like sometimes I'll teach when I'm teaching my youth group, I'll remind them, that about God's healing, like the only scars in heaven. I'm like, dude, have you ever written that? He's like, what? And I'm like, that. And he's like, no.
Yeah.
Like, we need to write that right now because there's a whole lot of people who've lost someone they love.
Yeah.
And we need to be reminded now that there's a place called heaven, and we need to be reminded there's a place where healing is going to take place, where our complete healing. And so he'll just say something like that. Like, that's profound, So I would have to point to Mark Hall, And I'll tell you, recently I wrote with like a girl named Hope Darst.
Oh, yeah.
And
she's a firecracker.
And some of these artists, they come in. And I find the best artists to write with are the ones who, I joke with her that her nickname with me is HOS, Hard on Sleeve.
Yeah.
Because she like comes in and just starts talking And by the end, we're crying.
Yeah.
And then a song gets written because she was just like, she came in, her heart on her sleeve. Here's what's going on. Here's what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And a song is born out of that, you know?
Right.
So I try to live like that as a writer in my own records too, where it's like, be vulnerable, be honest. That's where songs like Truth Be Told came from. It's like, if I'm willing to be that, then maybe the listener's willing to go there with me.
Right. We've got a new song from Matthew. What is the name of the new one that's come out?
It's called Me on Your Mind.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you just walk us up maybe DNA of
The DNA of the song?
Yeah.
Okay. So
there I was.
no, I had heard. So sometimes I just hear titles, and I'm big on titles. And I wrote, it's in my voice memos, Me on Your Mind. And I started to unpack what that would look like. And I thought it was like a conversation of just being in awe of the thought that like different scriptures I read that feel like are reading my mail. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, I wonder, like, so God, because you're mindful of me, like, did you say this with me on your mind? And so the line says, you know, I've read the words and read how you leave the 99 to find the one missing. Feels like that was written with me on your mind. And so these verses in scripture about like how God loves the worst ones.
Yeah.
I feel like, God, was that like in the prodigal, like the part where the father came running to meet him? Did you say that with me on your mind? Because I sure needed that,
Right.
you know? And so the song's just really this kind of, I'm in awe of the thought that God would even be mindful. Like, who am I? That the king of the world would give a single thought about my broken heart. And so, I don't know, it moves me. And when I wrote the song, I was like, it was one of those moments where I was like literally starting to cry while we were writing it, and it just moved me.
Yeah.
You know,
With a title like that, you didn't call Thomas Rhett right after? Like,
Wait,
bro.
does he have a song like
No,
that?
I'm
It
just
just
saying, it
sounds
like
country.
Here's a song called Me on Your Mind.
It does. It's and the song kind of has a bit of that flair to it. We're in Music City, you know. Some of the best songs about Jesus sometimes are in country music too, where there's like this.
A dog.
There's a dog in a truck, and it pulls up to church on Sunday
With
after a
me,
rough Saturday night.
With Me on Your Mind.
It does. It kind of sounds classic.
Yeah.
And the recording, I think, emulates that a little bit. It's just, you know what? I think I'm in this stage as an artist and as a writer where it's like, look, I'm just gonna write what the title needs to sound like. I'm not worrying about it being, you know, cutting edge or cool. I just want it to move people. And if it moves me, then I'm gonna bet on the fact that it might move somebody else, you know.
I've never asked you. I know your father, and I've never asked you. He was a pastor, New Hope Community Church. Hope Community Church.
Oh, my dad?
Yeah.
Yeah, Hobson Road, close.
How did he?
Hobson Road Community Church.
That's what it was. I have a recording of him saying Hobson Road Community Church.
Yeah, you called my parents.
And you're like, oh gosh.
On the air,
the
you
air.
called my parents at their office.
Yeah, just to get some embarrassing stories about you. And there's a story of you running down the street naked.
Yeah.
And I threw it an inappropriate joke. I'm like, well, that was the story from last year. Tell us one from his childhood. And then listening back, I'm like, oh, I should not have said that.
That story made it in my next book, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just how I come from a long line of streakers.
Get ready, Wrigley Field. Yeah. What was my dad worked at a grocery store for 40 years, hated it, changing the price tag, moving a cart up and down the aisles, changing the price tags. Yeah. 40 years, just did it because that was his job, and came home. And but the perk was at night when he would close the grocery store down, I got to run the aisles as a little kid.
Oh, yeah.
And so what was the perk of one of your parents' job growing up?
Well,
I'll give you an example.
Mike
Weaver's parents worked in social, like for the government, and they're in Mobile. So every time they would take him to work, there was nothing in the building. It was across the street from an Arby's, and that's where he learned about the greatness of the sausage biscuit. That was the perk of one of his parents' jobs, is going to work with them.
Yeah. Okay. So for us, we had this extension of our house that in, our house was behind, there was a field behind the church and then our house. So we could run through the field and be with my parents all the time and whenever we wanted to. But the church had a little gymnasium, and that gym was like the stuff of dreams because my buddies we could play basketball all the time. And I used to think that I could like slam dunk. We would take a video camera and we would like film me running towards the hoop and then jumping, then stop, then get a ladder, and then film the part of me slam. We make our own little
TikTok
movies.
And Instagram, where now there's a filter.
But we had, so a lot of the perks were like getting to use that gym, and my buddies would come over and we'd play basketball all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And then also I would sit in that sanctuary at the piano for hours.
Cutting your teeth.
Yeah, and so that was like very formulative music years for me as well. But then beyond that, like, man, that church kitchen, like, I pretty much ate everything in that kitchen, when I wasn't supposed to.
Josh Baldwin told us as a PK in the South in North Carolina, there was an old woman who would make real homemade bread for communion for the whole church. Whatever didn't get finished was a little Josh Baldwin in the kitchen downing it all.
Guess what? I was too scared to say that because I didn't want your listeners to be offended. But my brothers and I, let's just say we had so much grape juice and crackers. Like,
when you say grape juice, do you really mean grape juice?
We had, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no, it was grape juice. We were not. But we had communion in the kitchen many Sunday nights when we were hungry and there was nothing.
Isn't that funny, though? That's a PK's childhood.
Oh, yeah.
Is finishing what didn't get used.
Oh, yeah. And then and the work that a PK had to do, because we didn't grow up in a mega church where you had like handlers and all these different people who each did one job. It was like, okay, Sunday morning, there's ice on the driveway or there's ice on the sidewalk. I'm out there putting salt on the driveway or mowing the lawn. Like the preachers, I had to clean the preschool, and I hated it. It smelled terrible, Yeah. And but those are the things that I did as the preacher's kid, and people don't realize that. But I got a lot of great memories. I'll never forget my dad. Oh, I was so mad at him. The Chicago Bears made it to the Super Bowl.
Jim McMahon.
Yeah. And it was a Sunday night, and my dad decided he was still going to have Sunday night church. And I was like, Dad,
in Chicago,
of all the Sundays, this is the time. So, like, I would sneak out of the sanctuary to go watch the game on this little black and white portable television.
Where was your phone?
Exactly. So that's how I had to watch the Bears win the Super Bowl, because my dad would not, and there was nobody there on Sunday night because it was the Super Bowl. Yeah. But my dad was going to carry on.
In the Chicagoland area.
Yeah, who does that? Yeah. But he was just so disciplined,
right
And I would sneak back to the office to watch it while he's preaching.
Yeah, he'll be laughing at you in heaven when his mansion is 3 times the size of yours.
I know. Oh, Lord forgive me. Lord forgive me.
Matthew West is my guest here on the Joy FM. I want to hit you with this song. You and I both have teenage girls. Are they both teenage?
Yeah, well, what
about
age
to be?
what age is it? 13?
13.
Then yes.
Okay, so we both have 2 teenage girls, and so I've asked you kind of this before around the tech stuff, but I have a friend I work with who will pull out his phone and scroll on TikTok for hours and hours till somebody breaks him of that trance. So it's I've deleted the app many times. I'm like, this is unhealthy for me because I'm scrolling. It's you, Steve. What mindless thing fills your downtime that you're embarrassed of? If it wasn't TikTok, what is it? Is it a game? I've had David from Sidewalk Prophets tell me that he spends hours on a Disney app where you can design your own Disney park, and it's his stupid mindless
That's awesome
thing. But what is it for you? Is it a social media or is it something else?
I
write hit records, Jayar, in my spare time.
No. I mean, NFL Red Zone on like Sunday afternoons, like that's pretty like I'll have it on, and where like NFL Red Zone like skips from one game to the next, so you see every touchdown. So I'm pretty big into that when it's football season.
Us soccer fans don't have to worry about that. 'cause
Yeah,
the action's always going. We don't score a lot, but the action's always going.
Right.
Sorry.
There was a season where it was like the Office episodes.
Yeah.
I would just like when that was on Netflix. I think I wasted a lot of time just having that on in the background. But but lately, like I feel like I've been so busy that I'm like if I'm not in a meeting or something or writing, I'm working on some deadline, and it like. But I also do a lot of, and this is probably helpful, but I do a lot of audiobooks.
Okay.
Like I'm kind of consumed by being
reading
productive.
them or voicing them.
Yeah, voicing them. If you write a book, I'll voice it for you. No, reading them. Like
Okay.
I go for my walks and I like listen to these books, and it's like an easier way to.
I was nervous you were going to say the Bible for this answer.
Yeah,
I was
the
gonna
Bible.
be like,
No.
man.
I'm not gonna one up
Jesus
you
took
on
me.
that one.
What is the? I've learned. Here's one. We're going to end the interview on this one question. Since we both have teenage girls, we've talked about the tech back in the day. You know, you allowing them to have the phone or not. If there was a test at the end of them being teenage girls, if you could answer this question, I've learned this about having teenage girls.
Well, I'm still learning. I've learned they don't want me to try to be funny in the morning. That's an inside joke, but they're not in the best mood in the morning. And I'm like Mr. Goofy, right?
Yeah.
They're like, Dad, leave us alone. I've learned that it's a great gift that the Lord has blessed me big time by being a dad of teenage girls. I've learned that I need to be plugged in, knowledgeable about who their friends are, what their friends' names are, and even if it doesn't seem like it matters to them that I care, I have to just continue to like dig in. And then I think spending time with them, you know, one-on-one and figuring out what the definition of quality time means for each one of them is important too. So I'm learning a lot, man. I haven't figured it all out. I'm just trying to, I read this article once that talked about 18 summers and how much it changes. Like when you think about how much time you get to speak in to your kids' lives or spend time with them, like when you think of it in the context of summers, it like broke my heart, like 18 summers and how fast that goes by. So I'm trying to make it as special as possible. And, you know, I've also learned you can never spoil them enough. You know, like even the fact that they want my money to go buy me a Christmas present or something, like it's like, okay, you know, I don't like that. But
I got into a fight with one of mine that I'm like, why don't you just call me credit card? Because the only time you want to talk to me, it has to do with money.
I had the same conversation with my youngest. I said, look, I can't have you only be in a good mood when I'm buying you something. Like, you have to be nice to me.
Right.
Like, we have to, you know, we got to do this.
One of the two daughters I'll be like, no, I got your coffee. You know, we go out on a coffee date and I'm like, I got it. What do you do? But Dad, I work at Starbucks. I get a not date. Let me get this. Okay, I'm sorry. And the other one only wants to hang if it's fine dining.
If
and
Dad's
like,
buying too.
Like, just like in a passive aggressive moment, I've said, just call me credit card.
Yeah.
Because that's the way, and I probably shouldn't have said that. But because she started calling me credit card.
It does feel like that, though.
She signed my Christmas card.
Oh, man.
I love you, credit card.
But, you know, I'll tell you this, and then I know you probably got to go, but like during the pandemic, I had I found a list that my daughter made by her bed of all the things that were going wrong. And it like broke my heart that like she was going to bed thinking all those negative thoughts. And so I just started thinking, you know what, even in this worst season, like my mission is to make sure that they look back on this season years from now and actually have a list of some positive memories too. So I put them in the car, and the stores had just opened back up in Nashville, and I took them to Target, and they said, what are we doing? I said, each of you get a shopping cart. They're like, what? I'm like, you got 10 minutes. The clock starts now. And the light bulb went on that it was a shopping spree. Now, I thought I'm like, this is the greatest idea. I'm the greatest dad. Yeah. A minute in, I quickly realized this was a horrible this was a horrible decision on my part, because I knew they were fast, but they turned into like Usain Bolt, like running down the aisles. And I realized it should have been 3 minutes. Yeah. They came back after 10 minutes, and their shopping carts, like I had to get a second mortgage. You know what I mean? No, but I worked.
I'm totally doing this, except at Dollar General.
Dollar General. That's it. It was a horrible error in judgment on my part.
Fill it up, kids.
But the thing about it was like we had the most amazing time. And I got some of the items out of the cart. Like, we made it reasonable. But it just made me think, like, okay, that's how much I love my kids. Right. That I want to, like, lavish these gifts on them. And it literally, being a dad of girls, being a dad of my daughters, has taught me that feeling is just like a glimpse of how much our Heavenly Father wants to lavish his love on us. You know what I mean? And I'll never forget that moment. And guess what? Every year they say, Dad, are we going to Target this time? We're going to do that shopping spree? And I'm like, if we go, you get 2 minutes, not 10, because I've seen how fast you are, man. So if you take my advice and try that, just do Dollar General instead of Target.
With one of the baskets.
And tell them the gift card aisle is off limits.
Yeah.
One of them was sneaky and started piling a bunch of gift cards in there for future redemption. I said, nope, disqualified. Disqualified.
Or to the iPad, iPhone section. Well, can we end on this? All the artists, I'm having you just sing the Jayar show for me to play over Matthew West #1 records throughout the year.
Is there a melody to it?
Anything you want to come up with is just the Jayar show. You can go jazzy. You can go.
But is it like you're listening to the Jayar show, or is it just
whatever? Just your voice attached to the phrase the Jayar show in whatever way you want.
The Jayar show.
It's perfect.
Little Matthew Bublé there.
Yeah.
The Jayar show.
That's perfect.
Something like that.
Thank you as always for the time, my friend.
Oh, you're welcome. No, thank you, man. It's always good to see you, bud.
You as well, and you're looking swole.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
I've been doing push-ups. And
I heard you're opening for Tim Tebow.
Yeah. We didn't get to that story. I'll tell you that story next time. Okay. That's a funny story though.
It is.
You could tell your listeners that one.
Sometime.
That's a good one.
The Thursday Afternoon Chat. Your favorite artists with Jayar.